All right, we're live. I'm going to throw this up onto message board. Josh, we just went live. Jesus Christ.
He's gone.
We'll let them all filter in anyways. They can see how this all works. Should I think of a topic, Chris? Oh, here's one, a pre-show. Did Mike get mad at me the other day? Did Mike Norville get mad at me at the press conference?
I don't know. I was wondering that myself. In real time, I did not think that was what that reaction was pertaining to. I'll put it that way.
What did he say?
I thought that reaction was more frustration of a loss and the season ending in that moment.
That's what I thought too, but I don't know.
But it might have been all your fault, too.
It could have been. I mean, that's standard. Explain to them what happened. I don't think Zach and Josh understand it.
He was speaking at the podium, pretty lengthy answer, had a healthy pause. Sonnone interjects during healthy pause, asking a question. Not entirely clear if he was done actually answering at that point. But, I mean, it was a multi-second pause. But it reminded me of when we talked to Mike Martin Jr. He sometimes has a lengthy pause at times where you think he's done and then you realize, oh, he's not. So it was one of those. But you know how Sonnone is. He gets all on his mind about things, worrying about it, can't move on, thinks about it for days. Fun times.
I mean, Norville slammed the podium in anger or frustration. I don't know if it was me cutting him off or not. I went back and counted. There was 1.5 second pause. So maybe a little premature on my end, but not absurd. It was just enough to where it's on the fence.
So you're like 1 Mississippi, 2 miss. And that's like 1.5. That's how you knew.
Be on.
All right, let me on the bench. Are you guys excited for this?
Oh, yeah?
Jesus. There's so much going on the message board. I can't find the on the bench thread that I started this morning. Want to give him a shout, Josh, for everyone who's watching this, who's signed up so far. A little thank you while I'm adding this all to Twitter and whatnot.
Right now or during the pod?
I mean, we could do it right now and we'll do it during the pod too.
So you just want me to thank the people right now?
Never mind. I don't want you to do anything.
Let it come naturally, boy.
Yeah, this is natural.
Organic.
How about I just send them all thank you letters?
Each one individually?
My hair's really getting long.
It's getting dark as it gets long too. I didn't realize your hair was like black almost. I thought it was more of a light brown to dark brown. Here's the link if you guys want to tweet it out, and we'll get going here in a second. Thank you everyone for joining us. I see a lot of people trickling in. Talking a lot of off-season whatnot today. A little bit of recap on the season, but we're spinning it all forward. All right. I'm ready. You guys ready?
Yeah, hold on. Let me tweet this out real quick.
All right. Oh, happy Hanukkah, Josh, says Sam Clark.
Day 2, correct?
Day 2? Well, it starts at sundown, but yeah.
Yesterday was day 1, or evening 1. Chris, people like the Christmas tree?
Credit to my wife. It's a fake one. The real one's in the living room.
Boom, boom. All right. I'm good.
All righty.
I'm going to be done talking FSU recruiting after this, by the way.
For like a long time? Are you exhausted?
Me and Zach just did a Spaces with TJ. I wrote a recruiting scoop today.
Okay, well, no one asked you to do a Spaces with TJ, all right? No one asked you to do that.
TJ's been asking me for like 2 weeks now.
I would never be caught dead doing a podcast or anything with TJ, to be honest. Tonight,
so
bourbon on a budget.
Is this a podcast where we're going to talk about FSU Purdue basketball?
No, get it all out now. You know what? Here, for people that are
FSU's missing 3 players for it against the number 2 team in the country. Not feeling real good about it. Shoot the lights out. Good luck, guys. Hope you pull it off. FSU is 4-0 all time against Purdue. So, hey, you never know.
Yeah, man, you got to lose one eventually to Purdue. More like Purdue. Am I right? All right. And if anyone enters the transfer portal, for people in the chat, if anyone enters the transfer portal as we're recording this, just throw it in there in the chat and we'll get to it because they're just all entering the portal right now, apparently. 3, 2, 1.
Not FSU players.
Not yet. No, that's not true. Reggie Harden entered the transfer portal today.
Who?
He's a walk-on wide receiver from Jacksonville, converted defensive end.
I don't know who he is.
He mossed people in practice a couple times this year.
If I get paid to cover the team, and if I don't know who he is, then it's not important.
Walk-ons are people too, Josh.
No, not. I'm sorry.
Trayshawn Ward, King of the Spring, former walk-on.
And once he's worth talking about, we'll talk about
him. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to On the Bench. I am your host, Brendan Sonnone. For this episode, we have a full bench with us. Christopher Nee, Zach Blossing, Josh Newberg, all joining us for what will be an episode which is turning the page from the 2021 campaign into the offseason and really what we do best, which is cover the transaction aspect of Florida State athletics. And by that, I mean recruiting pretty much. So first off, thanks to the 700 plus people who've taken advantage of our Black Friday promo. Goes to win, Joshua, till tonight, right? We still have a little bit more time for the people to sign up and maybe get to 1,000. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, this has been crazy. We have no coaching change. We didn't make a bowl game. FSU is outside the top 10 in recruiting, yet Knowles 24/7 has sold by far the most memberships of any site on the network during this 75% off promo. I think we're closing in on 800. Maybe we hit 1,000 by the end of the day, but yeah, it's going to run until midnight tonight, I believe. And that's it. So it's 75% off an annual membership. It comes to like $26 a day. I don't even think you can buy a t-shirt.
No, wait, rewind.
$26 a year.
This t-shirt costs $26 a day.
Yeah. I know.
If it was $26 a day, I'd be doing this from cloud level.
Right. Yeah, we'd be in the VIP for sure. But yeah, go sign up. $26 for the year. This is the promo that everybody's been waiting for. It's here for another couple hours, so go take advantage of it.
It's been awesome. Thank you for everyone for supporting us. Tipton No, shout out in the chat for signing up today. Yeah, there's been a ton of people the last couple of days. So thank you for that. And it is amazing because, like Josh said, there haven't been any coaching changes. FSU didn't make a bowl game. But people are very interested right now in this program, and it's going in an interesting direction. I'm very much so on record, even with the loss to Florida, and we're going to get into a quick reflection on the 2021 campaign, and then we're going to do the spinning forward thing that I said. I think this program is headed in a decent direction. And let's start there, fellas. So FSU finishes the year 5-7 around the horn. Chris, what was your season prediction going into the year?
I don't remember if I settled on 5-7 or 6-6, but it was right there.
In there, Joshua.
It's ingrained in my head. My saying was 6-6, but 5 is greater, more of a chance than 7. So right about where I kind of thought Florida State would land.
Zach, were you throwing out season predictions way back then?
Wins, Zach?
Yeah, I think Zach was a little bullish on him.
No, I didn't. I definitely didn't go over 6 wins. I was
10 wins.
I was talking with other media before the season, and they were getting 7, 8 wins. I'm like, man, this team is really not that talented. So it was like, I was definitely in the 5 to 6 range.
In the way Florida State gets to 5 wins, I don't think any of us expected. You start 0-4, Jacksonville State lost there, and the front half of the schedule was harder than you thought it was going to be, but the back half was easier, and just, yeah. So FSU goes 5-7. The loss at the end of the year to Florida, real quick, Chris, we did the instant reaction. Anything from rewatching that game, recapping it that you want to talk about, or do we just want to keep it moving?
Did you rewatch that game?
I did this morning just to say I did.
Chris, did you?
I did not. I went to see Ghostbusters. I was like, season's over. I don't need to worry about this. No, I mean, my first reaction to it was FSU didn't play very well. They were pretty sloppy and kind of put themselves in a bad position, and I think the rewatch would have reinforced that for me. And looking at PFF grades and stuff like that since the game, most of what I thought in the initial watch was relatively reinforced. So, yeah, I did not invest time in watching it the second time.
It's disappointing because you had a chance to make Florida quit if you start off fast, and you give up the 40-yard bomb on the opening series. Jordan Travis gets hurt on the second series when you pass midfield. Then we saw what happens like when he isn't on the field. It's too bad because you had a chance there to take advantage of a vulnerable team, but you let a pretty good crowd get involved into the game. You fall behind 24/7 and fight to come back into the game. And that's really, I think, if you're looking at the microcosm or macrocosm, if you will, of this season, is that this team kept fighting despite some flaws and despite not always playing well too. I will say the people after the game who were saying that Mike Norvell and co got outcoached, like, again, broken record. I don't think you know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Just they lost by 3 points to a team that was favored by 3 points and a team that's better than them, even with the end of year attrition and whatnot.
And a team that owned the trenches on the day too.
And that was on the rewatch, Chris, that was a takeaway. And that's where we're going to get into this offseason talk. Like, the offensive line has to be a heavy investment in the transfer portal. We expected it to be. I think just that further crystallizes it. So as we look at where FSU is exiting the 5-7 campaign, S&P Plus, their regular season rank, they finish 48th nationally. The FPI, they're at 51st. The FEI is not out yet, but they'll be in the 40s somewhere. They're in the 40 range entering the week. So it's going to be about a composite of like in the 45 to 50 range. Where they were a year ago, they were 92nd if you factor in all those three metrics. 2019 season, they were 54th. 2018 season, 74th. They haven't been in the top 20 since the very end of the Jimbo Fisher tenure, which was 19. So really, this is the best season with metrics factored in that FSU has had. You're trending in the right direction despite some of these inherent deficiencies on the roster. So, fellas, before we go into the offseason here, given FSU's where they started the season, what you thought they would be, and where they finished with all the ups and downs from this campaign, let's assign people love letter grades. It's coaching higher season. So let's throw out some meaningless letter grades to what we think FSU did this year, again, relative to expectations. A being the best, F being the worst. Feel free to do anything in between, pluses, minuses, whatnot. Chris, what grade would you give Florida State's on-field product this season relative to expectations?
I'd say probably a B. There was a lot of variance of what I expected versus what it was, but FSU finishes 5-7. They had an opportunity to win ballpark about 9 games in the sense of they played 7 one-score games. And they won some of those. They lost some of those. If all of those go their way, they could have won probably up to 9. That's obviously a little far-fetched. They're not certainly a team there. Obviously could have lost a couple more and finished worse than they did. So they kind of balanced out in the end, and they are who they were. Jacksonville State's one that's going to always haunt them. They'd probably be bowling if not for that game, obviously. But I don't know if they turn the season around and play as they did down the stretch if that game never happens. That's one of those things where hindsight's kind of a weird deal.
Joshua, what would you assign a letter grade? Chris has a B. What do you have?
Somewhere in that range, in the B range. I think the start wasn't what we had expected. The finish wasn't what we expected on the other end. We thought that this team was possibly going to break down at certain points, but they did not. They never quit in the games. They never quit on the season. So that's a really good sign. I almost said they were enjoyable to watch. There were some really hard moments to watch. They were enjoyable to watch.
They were likable.
Outside of some really not
I think likable is a better word than enjoyable. Yeah. There were times where it was pulling teeth.
Yeah. But it's been worse. I'd go in the B range as well.
They remind me, my favorite team growing up, like that got me into sports, really was the Orlando Magic's 1999-2000 team, the year where they blew everything up to make room for Tim Duncan, Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady. Only get 2 out of those 3, and Grant Hill gets hurt. But anyways, that year was the heart and hustle year. They were supposed to be awful. That was Doc
Bo Outlaw on that team.
Bo Outlaw, Daryl Armstrong. I got Bo Outlaw autographed ball somewhere around here. I can't find it.
I believe you.
But that's what this team reminds me of. They fell just short. I think FSU falls just short of a bowl game. That Orlando Magic team fell a game short of making the playoffs as an 8 when they had no reason to be that close. So that's what it reminds me of. Zach, you're and I just been wanting to get that take out for a week or so. So I'm glad you guys, Central Floridians, really knew what I was talking about. Sorry to the rest of the audience that got isolated. Zach, A, B, C, D, or F?
I would go B-. I mean, it's like you point to the obvious. You can never lose the Jacksonville State game, no matter how bad your roster is. It's just not something that should happen. But they compete against Notre Dame. Obviously, the beginning of the season's not how they wanted it to go, but the turnaround was pretty incredible, going on the road to beat North Carolina, and then, you know, beating Miami and a bunch of those other schools down the stretch was pretty impressive just based on how that season started. So I think with the turnaround, you definitely boost that grade up into the B range. You know, if they get a bowl game, I think everyone would probably be rating it A- to an A, just with, you know, the complete turnaround of reaching that expectation of 6 wins. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair grade.
A lot of the fan reaction is around B-, C+ area. Seeing special teams mentioned there, that certainly was a weakness and something that they disappointed in throughout the entire season. And that was magnified on Saturday. A couple other people pointing out that, you know, what will they be when they lose these defensive ends? Well, if we were sitting here 12 months ago, they didn't have those defensive ends. So we'll see what comes. Right. I think we have to give this staff some level of credit in the offseason that they're going to address needs and do it effectively. I think they probably also have learned from last offseason of how to do it even more effectively than they did last go round.
Especially at a position like offensive line, to not be picky. Be like, hey, this is an issue going into the offseason. We need to make sure we at least shore that up a little bit. Yeah, I'd go with C+, B- range is what I had going into this. I think that feels about right. They were living on a very thin, like, razor's edge all year. And even going into the year, like, 5 wins would be sufficient. 6 wins would be really good and a step in the right direction. 4 would have been pretty tough to sell. So, like, you know, you're talking about a pretty small variance there. Real quick, guys, before we move forward, biggest surprise and biggest disappointment from you this year. We can go macro, you can go micro, you can go player, you can go coaching staff, like anything that you want. Chris, I'll throw this to you first. Biggest disappointment and most pleasant surprise.
Well, come on. Biggest disappointment is Jacksonville State. That was a miserable evening. They didn't treat that game correctly. They paid for it in the end. I mean, I can't think of something else. Biggest surprise, I would say Jordan Travis's real-time development within the season. He was good in the preseason, but it was an up-and-down preseason with guys' availability. Obviously, there were some struggles out of gate with him, but he got better throughout the year, played better. And there was a metamorphosis with him, more so mentally, but also physically.
Zachary, surprise and disappointment for you?
Biggest surprise for me was definitely, I think, the FSU running back room. There were some questions there at the beginning of the season, you know, whether they'd be able to contribute. But Jashaun Corbin and Treshaun Ward both, you know, showed really great ability to make that room special this year. So, you know, Ward especially, I mean, coming in as a walk-on and then doing what he did this season was pretty impressive. Biggest disappointment, other than Jacksonville State, I think, you know, like Chris mentioned, the special teams unit, that's something that Mike Norvell prides himself on. That's been a staple of a lot of his teams in the past, like at Memphis. And with how much time they put into that unit, they just didn't get the return that should have been expected, especially in the return game and at times with, you know, punting the ball and kickoff coverage. So, and the field goal unit, like
all of it.
Yeah, just super inconsistent. And some of the, you know, some of those units were just consistently poor. And I think that's got to be a focus this offseason is getting that unit fixed.
That's the only time the F-bomb was uttered on the bench was Josh asking special teams WTF after the Clemson game. Subpar F. Yep. Subpar F, speaking of F-bombs, biggest disappointment was losing an avatar bet and never being given a punitive avatar. Hey, chill out, man. I'll give you one. Well, you know what? We'll open it up for everyone to go ahead and say Mr. Subpar F, who you predicted FSU to win 9 games and said that was the only foreseeable outcome. Yeah. All right, Josh. Surprise, disappointment.
Yeah, my biggest surprise was Florida State's defensive line, not just their playmaking ability, but the consistency and the importance that they played in the season. Just being that one thing that Florida State could lean on. They knew they were going to get a good performance from their defensive line. Even when there was injury, seeing guys like Jarrett Jackson step up, Quayshawn Fuller became a rotational guy, Malcolm Ray flashed. I mean, it was all hands on deck. They needed everybody. Fabian Lovett made a giant step. And then obviously the transfers, Jermaine Johnson, Keir Thomas, they kind of set the tone. We finally saw Robert Cooper develop into a complete player. Like, it was incredible, the metamorphosis we saw as soon as they started to count Odell out.
Never count out Odell. Never.
And then disappointment. would be, for me, lack of a bona fide playmaker on offense. Even as Jayshon Corbin and Trayshawn Ward flashed, just the lack of a pure playmaker. It's frustrating that this can happen at Florida State, but it shows the depth of talent on the roster, the lack of depth of talent on the roster, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're hitting these transfers so hard as we speak.
You're saying away from Jordan Travis being a playmaker, right?
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah. Like somebody to step up outside of Jordan Travis, like specifically at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, skill guys. Yeah, Jordan Travis, an elite playmaker.
Yeah. So he needed some help.
Chris, really quick. We're recording this on a Monday afternoon. Things are crazy right now. There's coaches being hired and fired and players entering the transfer portal, but only one so far for FSU. A real quick update on attrition and anything that we're looking out for in the next 48 hours or so, whether it's players, coaches, anything like that.
Well, from a redshirt senior standpoint, the only question marks are Emmett Rice and Leonard Warner because of their limited playing this past year. In both cases, they didn't play. Guys coming off injury, we're not completely sure what the deal is there. There were obviously some underclassmen, Jalen Goss, Brady Scott, to Kalen Brooks, who all walked on senior day. Our belief is that all three of them are departing the program. Reggie Harden, a walk-on wide receiver, scout team guy, he entered the portal today. Exit interviews are probably likely at least a week off for FSU. I think finals week is next week. Obviously, the coaching staff is on the road heavily this week, as Josh and Zach have covered so well. So we'll probably see some movement with exit interviews. FSU's around with the exiting eligibility guys as it stands with the 2 question marks. I think around 75, 76 scholarships. That means about 10 or so. I expect us to see another 10 or so depart beyond normal attrition because FSU is going to work towards a class of 25. Coaching-wise, I've not heard much on the FSU front pertaining to that. I'm not really keeping an eye out to that beyond the normal asking and seeing if anybody might get lured away to another job because of coaching changes elsewhere and movement in that sense. But I'm not expecting FSU to put somebody on the firing block personally.
Everyone on the current staff is under contract through next December, so 2022. The only two who are not, to my knowledge, and I've requested clarification from FSU a couple times recently and haven't heard back yet. But Ron Dugas and Odell Hagens do have their contracts, to my understanding, run through January 31st of 2022. So a month and a half from now. I haven't heard of any extensions or anything like that. They are on different schedules than other coaches. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on and monitor. And if we have updates on that, we'll have it at Knowles 24/7.
Yeah, their contract situation was a little weird last year with those two. And we didn't find out about the extensions until well after they had been signed and executed.
Yeah. Yeah. They were signed like in July or June, and we didn't find out until probably right around this time. So anyways, we will see. As I'm going down my script here. All right, last thing before we get into the recruiting scoop and transfer allocation and transfer portal, all that good stuff. Josh, I want to get your thoughts, the mind of Newberg, on everything that's happening in the college football world. We have people in the chat right now asking about Brent Venables to Oklahoma. That noise is apparently heating up more and more, and there's fake rumors out there right now, but there's some that have legitimate steam, so who knows with that. But Florida gets Billy Napier. Lincoln Riley to USC is obviously the headliner. So just your thoughts on everything that's happened in the last 48 hours. My thoughts on
this is, for one time in my life, I get to watch the tornado go by instead of being in the middle of the tornado. It feels really cool. I'm interested. I reach out to some of my friends that are in some of these searches and laugh at them and wonder, if their one day feels like 4 days. Remember those days, Brendan?
My favorite, when you talk about friends laughing like in the industry, my favorite thing is covered like any coaching search is other friends in the media calling and texting you like as the news is happening, like as Willie Taggart's getting fired, like what the deal is, that we're busy, right? So that's my favorite
I don't
part.
do that. I've waited, but it's nice to have some stability. We're going to see what that does for a team. We're going to see what that does for a program. I mean, Florida State's recruiting class isn't going to get any better with coaching change. They're going to actually have a chance to solidify and improve on their recruiting class because they don't have any turnover, I feel. And with the early signing period, it's really tough. Like, it's really hard to get coaches in, get them hired, get them on the road recruiting. So, like, look at Ford. I think Billy Napier is going to coach through the week, through the Sun Belt.
He's coaching the conference championship, which Louisiana is hosting against App State on Saturday.
Yeah. So we're not going to really see what the impacts of UF hire mean until he gets on the road a week from now. And I don't think it's going to have too much of an impact on FSU. But I think when the dust settles is when we kind of take stock. Like, we look around when the dust settles. Oh, is Venables still at Clemson? Where's Lane Kiffin? Where's, all these moving parts are going to happen. But there's stability in Tallahassee. I think that's a good thing for once. And Florida State's going to take advantage.
Yeah, let's see if you can capitalize on it. Go ahead.
I can't wait for the ripple effect of LSU and OU. Joe C at OU hires good people. He always has. I don't know that he's ever had to hire somebody so much under a gun as he is right now. That's the biggest difference in that dynamic. Plus, hey, Bob Stoops actually has a job again, interim. And then LSU's the wild card in all this. He's not going to swing low. Right? The guy hired Peterson at Washington, hired Jimbo at A&M. His history tells you that he's swinging big, and I feel like people don't have a good grasp on LSU. I don't know if Sonny and Shay have written something differently today, but when I was reading it yesterday, I think after the Lincoln Riley USC stuff, they were up front. They're not sure who the next hire is going to be. They have a timeline in mind that they believe is going to hold to, but they've done a very good job, LSU's brain trust, of keeping that thing very under wraps, very quiet, very interesting. But when those two or one of those two happens, there's a great deal of ripple effect that I expect to come of it. Potentially another major job opening because of a hire at one of those two. So it's just the domino effect is wild. I think last year with such a limited amount of coaching change kind of led to this year. But when Lincoln Riley pulls Roy Williams going Kansas to North Carolina and does the OU to USC version, that's throwing dynamite in the lake of gasoline that's already on fire. I mean, it's just wild. I'm here for it
because the secondary market's going to open up.
Yeah.
And
plus
the secondary jobs are
that
going to
will
be
move around.
Like, we might talk about Wake Forest. Dave Clawson could be gone. The secondary market, you could see Miami, because Miami's not on the first tier market. They're definitely on the secondary. Miami could open. I mean, there's other impacts just besides, Venables potentially leaving. Like you said, Chris, there's going to be some big hires made. If Lane Kiffin's involved, now all of a sudden Ole Miss is open. I mean, that's a middle tier SEC job. That's a really big job coming open. So yeah, the secondary market is going to be really interesting. And it's also the secondary market is also going to take some of the coordinators out too. You could see
Venables, Lanning,
a Mike Elko at Texas A&M go take the Wake Forest job as a first-time coach. You could see some of these things happen.
Yeah, Levy, Lanning, Elko. Who else coordinator wise?
Who's the Notre Dame defensive
Dan
coordinator?
Lanning,
Freeman.
Marcus, is it Freeman?
Freeman, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Bill O'Brien at Alabama. I mean, that would be a shakeup.
Do you think Bill O'Brien would be a good college head coach?
He's been a good college head coach.
I know he has, but do you think he wants to be that again?
Yeah, I think it'd be a solid hire at the secondary level.
It's not a good. He wasn't a good NFL head coach, right?
But yeah, I think we're just tip of the iceberg right now with coaching change and how interesting it's going to get. I mean, hell, I'm interested in who Duke's going to go hire. If I'm Duke, I'm trying to get the Coastal Carolina staff to come over. I think that would be a home run for a place like Duke.
So we can clarify again, Monday afternoon, our Oklahoma website at 24/7 Sports is reporting that Brent Venables is expected at this point. Not that it's a done deal, but that seems to be where it's going. So
yeah,
how great was that?
About Tony Elliott. Yeah, Tony Elliott. Like if Mac Brown retired at UNC or Tony Elliott, there's some jobs that you could see Tony Elliott get involved in.
Mac shot that down supposedly. So
we'll see.
Yeah,
just saying.
We'll see.
It's Bob until it ain't.
No more of that. That's so 2019. Okay. To the part of the podcast where what everyone is here for, and that is scoop for recruiting, that is transfer portal talk, but we're going to kind of mix it in and go position by position down the board and do a kind of a reflection on what FSU had this season, what it's expected to lose, and how it's addressed. So as we begin to go down those position guys, I'm going to apply this exercise and try to keep track of it too while you're talking, as people want to know what's happening in the transfer portal, in addition to what FSU's recruiting out of the high school ranks. On the last podcast, Josh and Chris, kind of you guys came between what? I think, Josh, you said 6 to 8 guys in the portal. What you think FSU will have allocated to that as of right now? Chris, you were in the 7 to 9 range, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I'm slipping that, but yeah.
All right. Sorry. 8 is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to have all 3 of you go ahead when we're going down the positions and say I would allocate, one of these 8 transfer spots to quarterback, 1 to offensive line, whatever. And you have to get to 8. I will keep track of it, and we'll look at where you think those 8 spots will be at the end of this, okay? So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Let's begin.
A little confusing.
But for me,
it's not too confusing.
It's very Sonone-like.
Yeah, very Sonone-like.
I was going to go with a Buyer Sonone question, but I can't think of one. Okay, quarterback. First off, season ends with Jordan Travis, McKenzie Milton, Tate Rodemaker on the roster. I don't expect McKenzie Milton to be part of the program in any capacity next season, even including GA. As of right now, I do not expect that. AJ Duffy is currently committed, high-ranked 4-star quarterback recruit. FSU's working to kind of finish that one off. As FSU moves forward, guys, Jordan Travis finished the year with a passer rating of 148.86. That is 49th nationally, and 533 rushing yards. He is one of just 5 quarterbacks in the entire country to have a passer rating over 145.
Are you trying to taint the process?
I'm just providing hard, cold facts here. And 500 rushing yards. So first off, would you all like to apologize to me for saying he is an above average Power 5 quarterback? Because I think
I never disagreed with you.
Chris definitely did. But if Chris wants to apologize, I'm here for it.
I mean, by the numbers, Brendan, I don't know what we're.
Oh, God, I don't want to fall back.
Keep the trains moving, Brendan.
So no one's going to admit that I was right. Okay, cool. So as we look at the quarterback room, Josh, I'm going to throw this to you. I know you've been on you need to take a transfer quarterback to kind of solidify this position group. Are you still a proponent of that? And if so, what does that look like? Are you upgrading?
Brendan, I can't imagine somebody watched the Florida Gator game and thought that Florida State doesn't need a transfer quarterback. Like, didn't that just end the discussion right there?
Okay, but when you say transfer quarterback, that's so nebulous. Like, are you talking about Spencer Rattler that Zach is apparently stumping for right now? Or are you talking about someone who is an FCS quarterback that's going to come in and compete with Jordan Travis, but really be Alex Hornibrook? Like, what are you discussing when you say a transfer quarterback?
Well, you have my opinion, and then you have what's happening in reality. And what's happening in reality is what I've explained several times on the podcast. Florida State, I don't believe, is going to rock the boat until AJ Duffy is signed. So with Spencer Rattler maybe I'm wrong. This is my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Florida State's doing an in-home visit with Spencer Rattler later this week, and this is all for naught. But based on the people that I talked to, I don't expect FSU to rock the boat until AJ Duffy is signed. And they're not saying, nobody's saying that it's going to be after AJ Duffy signed either. They're just telling me FSU's not in the market for transfer QB. My opinion is different than what I report. My opinion is I understand that, the company line right now is to not pursue a transfer quarterback. But I think once they get AJ Duffy signed and rolled and all that, I think you do go after a transfer quarterback. Maybe Spencer Rattler's not available at that point, which I get. But there'll be plenty. There'll be plenty of options. And I think at that point you pursue the best available.
Chris?
I was going to let Zach go.
Zach?
I'll go. I'm in agreement with Josh. I think it's one of those situations that we've seen in past cycles. Obviously, it hasn't been a situation like this where they're worried about taking another quarterback because the other guy might leave. There's usually other circumstances at play. But we saw this happen with Nico Marchiol earlier in the cycle. They took AJ Duffy, whatever, they may consider him a better quarterback prospect. They get him in the class, and their other quarterback, steps away and decommits. They don't want that to happen with AJ Duffy down the stretch. Regardless of how AJ feels about coming in with another quarterback, that might be an option. What?
You can't fumble AJ Duffy's recruitment.
Exactly.
Purdy transferred. Jeff Sims isn't on the roster. Tate Rodemaker doesn't look like a formidable
Odd
backup.
Jeff Sims reference.
No, I'm just saying at some point, like you can't botch this high school quarterback recruitment. Like you can't botch it up because
He's having Willie flashbacks basically.
You dump Nico, whatever happened with Nico, and he's not an option. FSU is going to probably try to take Nico and another. So now you got AJ Duffy. You're happy with AJ Duffy. You just got to make sure you sign him. I think that's vitally important. So I can understand them not pursuing a transfer quarterback until he signed. I can understand that.
Do you think they're going to go December 16th and go find the best transfer quarterback and go target him?
I mean, I don't think you have to do it on December 16th. I think they're going to know who's in the portal. We know how this staff works. We know how the behind the scenes people, do their job very well. So they're going to have a good grip on who's out there. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to make this sound like this is the staff's plan because I'm not told that is. I'm not told that they're trying to just get AJ Duffy in and then go after a quarterback as soon as he signs the paper. I'm being told the exact opposite. I'm being told they're not going to pursue a transfer quarterback. And remember what happened 2 off seasons ago when I got that message? It held true. Even though we thought that they should sign a transfer quarterback, that message held through that they were not going to sign another transfer. So
Josh explained the official stance well. I'll go with the opinion stance. Yes, you sign a transfer quarterback without blinking twice. You try to get the best possible transfer quarterback you can get. When you're recruiting transfers, it should be one of 2 things. Best possible available player at position of need or a guy that fits something at a position that you need at that position. I think at quarterback, it's the best possible guy. Quarterback's too important of a position to be left in a situation where you're going to possibly rely on a true freshman or Tate Rodemaker if something happens to the guy you expect to be your starter. So I'm a 1 on that.
So let's go down the list. Chris is a 1.
I'm a 1. I take a transfer QB.
Zachary?
Yeah, I'm 1.
Okay, very confident there. I am also a 1. I think it's a matter of finding. Well, no one cares if I'm not going to count score for myself. No one's going to care about mine. But here's the question, though: is all right. December 16th rolls around. What are the chances that you find? Josh mentioned best possible quarterback transfer. And you can't not have a quality backup to Jordan Travis in 2022. But what are the chances or the odds you guys think like that you actually find a quarterback who is a significant upgrade with the supporting cast you probably will have in place with Jordan Travis? I think that's the question, right? Like who's demonstrably better than Jordan that you think, or do you think you can find someone who's significantly better than Jordan Travis in the portal this year at quarterback?
I think that's the goal. I don't know if you can. Obviously, anytime you're recruiting, you're always trying to find something better. It's a cruel world. Recruiting isn't for the faint of heart. It is what it is. So I think, you shoot for the stars, you bring in competition, and you see how it works out. I don't think anybody's going to unseat Jordan Travis. I don't expect that to happen, but if it does, so be it. It's better for, it's just.
Okay. Just trailed off there. Chris?
Yeah. No, I think we're good. I think we've covered the quarterback situation.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to running back. So FSU ends the season with 5 running backs on scholarship: Jayshon Corbin, Trayshawn Ward, the kind of the top end 1-2 punch among the leaders in the ACC in yards per carry, DJ Williams, Lawrence Toafili, and Corey Wren. All those guys will have eligibility to return next season. I think it's going to be TBD. Is like Jayshon Corbin. Is that someone who maybe tries his hand to go pro? I'm not convinced that he's a surefire NFL draft pick if he does. There's certainly a lot to like about him. But some of the splits like home and away are kind of troubling. When Jordan Travis doesn't play, like outside of 1 or 2 big runs, not a whole lot there. He's someone who didn't get better as the year went on. So, Chris, I'll throw this to you. Just thoughts of the running back room and I guess how much is an upgrade in your estimation needed at that position going into the 2022 campaign?
I mean, if you can get somebody uniquely special, like, for example, Georgia Tech running back Jahmyr Gibbs went in today. If you can get a guy of that caliber, then yes, you don't blink. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I think FSU's recruiting some talented high school types. Javante Barnes is the first name that comes to mind. Las Vegas running back with some Florida ties that they went to see earlier this week. If you get a guy like that, I don't think you use a portal spot on that position. I think you've got enough dependable type guys at that position that if you can put a better O-line out there and some wide receiver talent, you got guys who can produce at that position at a good enough level. I don't view any of them as, uniquely special game breaker types. We've seen those here at FSU. Dalvin Cook being one of the more recent ones. But I don't know that you find something like that in a portal. When we're trying to designate positions we're going to use it on, running back's not one I think of.
All right,
for
so
a portal spot.
Coming to you, Zach. You've been pretty ahead of the curve with Javante Barnes recruitment and having updates from him and FSU. Certainly putting a lot of time and effort into that recruitment. So where do things stand currently with FSU and the 4-star running back from Las Vegas?
Yeah, so Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham went in home with Javante Barnes last night. By all accounts, that visit went really well. I posted an update, like you mentioned, on Noles 24/7. Just talked to Barnes about that visit. I think the one wild card in his recruitment going forward is obviously Lincoln Riley heading over to USC. When we first heard about Javante Barnes and FSU, there was a widely held notion that USC was a top school for him. At the time, he wasn't really that interested, but he told me in our interview that he did have a lot of love for USC early on. And I think with Lincoln Riley heading there, he could possibly check them out soon. I know Josh you were talking on the spaces that we did earlier that he could take an official there, but I don't believe he took an official to USC earlier, before this coaching change. So I don't think he can go back unless he replaces the Miami official that's set for December 10th with USC. But obviously, Las Vegas isn't super far from LA, so he can go unofficially there if he really wanted to. And I think that's what he told me. He plans to get down there soon.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the wild card I'm looking at. I don't know how involved Bama is with him. Didn't mention it a ton in our interview. Utah was another school he visited, but I think it's FSU, and then Oklahoma. They have the running back coach DeMarco Murray, who he's really, really close to, and that's probably the coach he was going to commit to before a lot of this stuff went down with Lincoln Riley heading out. So I'm monitoring USC in this recruitment. Obviously, OU is still in the picture, especially if they keep DeMarco Murray on staff. And then FSU is doing a great job in getting in that mix, and that I think it's a three-way battle right now.
Yeah, I think that's really it right now at the running back board. We'll see if they visit Katron Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but I think he's a much longer shot than Javante Barnes. And I think Barnes at this point is sort of a long shot. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Zach's dead on. The team to watch between now and signing day is USC. And I think official or not, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have an official to take to USC, but I don't think that matters. They're going to try to get him on campus, and FSU believes that, he probably will make it on campus, and these final 2 weeks for Barnes are going to be pretty crazy.
Hello, I'm doing a live podcast. Mrs. Stone just entered the room. All right, what do we got for running back? Yes, no, for the transfer portal?
No, I would say not on my watch.
All right, no, for Josh, Zachary?
Jahmyr Gibbs or bust?
Okay.
I'm putting Zach down as a half.
I'm not going to do that. That's a 0 for now. Noted though, if you get a special prospect, yes, you make room for him to get an upgrade there. All right, tight end.
Are you a 1 or a 0, Brendan?
Oh, I thought we weren't caring about mine. I'm a 0. I don't think right now that's the best use of a scholarship. I wasn't a big fan of the DJ Williams take last year for that reason. I think you have decent guys there, and I wouldn't do that again. So 0 for me. Okay, tight end. FSU's got about 24 of them. How many of them are going to be factors? They end the year with seriously those 7 guys on scholarship. Jordan Wilson is the one who's exhausted his eligibility. He actually came on late in the year. Outside of that, I'm not sure what we're going to see in terms of attrition there. I expect some, like as Cameron McDonald, end up going pro. Yeah, he's a 4th-year junior right now with the COVID year. So you get a year 5 out of him, and just didn't get a ton of production, I feel like, that you wanted from that position, given the amount of numbers that you've thrown into it right now. I know Chris is a huge fan of Jackson West, someone he thinks has potential. Marcus and Douglas showed some stuff in practice, but didn't do a ton in games. So I don't know who wants to take tight end. You know what? Josh loves talking about tight ends. I'll throw this to you, Josh. Anything at tight end recruiting, and I guess anyone in the portal right now kind of pique your curiosity?
No, there's nobody out there that piques my curiosity that they're recruiting right now. But for this exercise, I would take one tight end in the transfer portal. And I know that might be a surprise to some people, but if you actually
I already had you down at 0 before you started talking.
No, because if you actually listen to the podcast, I'm not against them taking tight ends. I'm against them taking bad tight ends. So as long as they can get a good tight end in the portal, then I'm all for it.
Like this gets Josh's juices flowing his tight end recruiting.
And I think they do need it. I think based on what I've seen, I definitely think they need a tight end.
I think the big question at tight end is, do you get McDonald back? Does Douglas take the next step? Is Wes ready to contribute? If 2 out of 3 of those are yeses, then I don't think you use one there. I'm just of the opinion it's a position, while it's very important in the run game and the additional blocker, I don't want to, simplify that idea. I just don't know if it's worth the numbers when numbers get tight. So I'm a no.
These guys haven't really proven to me that they know what they're doing when they're taking tight ends. Everything else I'm all in on, except for that.
This is 0 for Chris.
And that's not a knock on Coach Thompson. That's just a knock on everybody.
Zachary?
0. I don't know. You have to replace 2 extremely talented defensive ends. I think you need to get probably 2 or 3 more offensive linemen. Maybe 1 to 2 receivers. I just don't see how
Zach's emptying the clip of scholarship.
Keep it in your pants, young man. Jesus, play the game.
You let it loose.
Zach's pulling a Chris here and getting way ahead of himself.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but right. you have to put it holistically for it to make sense. And I think considering that, they don't need a tight end out of the transfer portal right now.
And I didn't set it up very well, but a reminder, FSU has a commitment from Brian Courtney and Jarrell Powers.
They need more tight ends.
High upside guys both of them are more developmental, athletic guys, but Brian Courtney hasn't played the position before. Jarrell Powers, he didn't play it a year ago, or he
Brian
was
Courtney
kind of
might not play the position for Florida State.
I'm going to go.
Just planting that seed.
Josh makes a great point. You know what? I'm going to take that. I'm going to put 1 down there. I think you can use 1 for tight end or running back if you can get a surefire starter, plug-and-play type of guy. All right, I'm at 1 with you there, Josh. I'm going to kind of take that as a running back. It's a gadget guy. Let's get into wide receiver. So Andrew Parchment availability ends. 4th and 14 happened, but was not the graduate transfer that they needed in terms of elevating the passing game. All right, now we have them down for 8 wide receivers who were expected to return as of right now. I'm including Ja'Kai Douglas in there, Monterio Wilson, Keyshawn Helton, Jordan Young, Kentron Poitier, Darian Williamson, Douglas, Josh Burrell, and Malik McLean. McLean flashes at the end of the year and times throughout the season. So you have some upside there. Real quick, what do they have coming in, Josh, at wide receiver? Should I ask you? I'm asking you about Destin Hill, basically. Turn off your phone. Who's new here? Jesus.
Yeah, Destin Hill, to everything that I know, is expected to be in January. So, you can kind of pencil him into the depth chart. I wouldn't write with pen, but pencil until he shows up.
Mm-hmm. And then committed is Devon Mortimer right now. Zachary, who else is on the wide receiver board for Florida State? And I guess Rodney Hill counts as like a gadget type of guy potentially as well.
I'll put him as a running back for now.
Okay.
Are we talking just from high school or transfer portal too?
Well, right now, just guys that they're pursuing from high school. Who's committed and who are they targeting?
Yeah, so the only guy they have committed right now is Devon Mortimer, like you mentioned. The only 2 targets I would mention are 5-star receiver Kevin Coleman out of Missouri, and then St. Thomas Aquinas receiver Camden Brown, who used his OB for the Miami game.
I was there for that Camden Brown interview. He's not coming here. We can move on that one. It was good of you to mention it.
He was
but they are going to see him in home, so it's worth
Yeah.
having him on the board. If they weren't, I'm all for taking guys off the board prematurely. But if they were not gonna go visit him in home, I don't think they would waste their time. And we'll track that. We'll see if they actually do visit him in home. I know that's on schedule for the end of the week, so we'll see if it happens.
Yeah,
here's
Brown's
one more
on
name
schedule. Go ahead.
I would throw in there in terms. I know Joshua Moore and Micah Pittman are the 2 that we know Florida State's active with. Theo Weiss, Oklahoma wide receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds, entered the transfer portal this afternoon. I think he's a guy. If I was gonna keep an eye on a third name, Theo Weiss, if they can get traction there, I think they'd go after him.
Yeah, I think they, if they get Kevin Coleman, then maybe it's only 2, but I think portal wise, it's 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They got to flip that room over. It's got to get better. They got to get guys that can help them a lot. I don't know how many guys currently in that room you feel really are the type that you can lean on. Pokey Wilson maybe as a third guy, Help maybe as a third guy. McLean and Williamson are possibilities as developmental types. I don't know how you feel about Tron. I don't know how you feel about Jordan Young.
Well, I know how I feel.
I think you got to go 2 or 3. I'll use 2 as my number there. Just keep it nice and simple and well-rounded.
I was spacing out and laughing at Josh's joke. What was the number, Chris?
Dose.
2.
Yeah, I'll go with 2, at least 2. Like Chris said, at least 2.
Oh, so Weiss from Oklahoma, the Oregon wide receiver, and then Pittman.
It's early. I mean, I'm not going to just say that that's the board. We're seeing.
I'm just saying.
Dozens of guys. Yeah, right now, those are probably the most realistic names.
I'm informing our listeners of who is currently in the market, and guys are still entering it. Like someone in the chat just mentioned Jake Bobo from Duke, who's a solid wide receiver there. He just.
I don't think they're trying to find solid wide receivers though. That's
pro potential.
Yeah, they want NFL guys. And then who's the Texas A&M wide receiver as well? Right? Is he still in the mix? Or the Texas wide receiver, excuse me.
Joshua
Moore, yeah.
You should know that. We have a lot of history with Joshua Moore.
You guys do.
All right, so Brendan, you're what number?
2.
Zach?
2.
All right.
At least 2.
Yeah, I don't think you can go just 1 this year and risk it to be like, if Andrew Parchment was complimented with someone else, it's not as big of a disaster as it was, but just that didn't work out for you and it really hindered your offense. So, all right, offensive line. Good old offensive line. They exit this season. Well, they have 10 guys currently on scholarship exiting this season. Devontae Love-Taylor exhausts his eligibility. Bavion Johnson, I believe, exhausts his eligibility. It's been like 20 years for Bavion. Brady Scott, we do not expect back. He kind of did a goodbye letter. He walked on senior day. He had a year of eligibility remaining. We expect Brady Scott, who started multiple games for you this year. Hence
why can't you just say Brady Scott's not coming back?
Providing context. Was I rambling or was that good context?
No, but why can't you just say he's not? Like he put up the note saying like goodbye Seminole Nation.
Because a lot of guys are saying thanks, deuces. I don't know what any of it means until I know.
Sinone's struggling with these mixed messages he keeps getting.
Look, Jamie Robinson and Brady Scott are not the same. Brady Scott said goodbye. He proposed for marriage. He is ready to go sell insurance and get married and start a family and just live in peace. He's done. You can say that Brady Scott is no longer on the team or no longer part of the program.
Jalen Goss is also someone who walked on senior day. He has not put out a goodbye note yet, but we don't expect him back. So already you have 10 that you have accounted for currently on the roster. In this recruiting class, you have, oh God, how many do they have at the moment? I'm pulling it up. Jalen Early,
and Tavius Woody, Daughtry Richardson, Quayshawn Sapp. Am I forgetting one?
I'm making sure. Kanaya Charlton is 5, and you have a commitment from Bless Harris, the FCS transfer. So 6 guys that you currently have accounted for, 1 in the transfer portal right now. And when we do our math here, are we counting Bless Harris as part of like the numbers already when we do our projections?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, all right. So that's what they have right now. Josh, who else is on the board currently on offensive line? Whether we can go prep or we can go transfer portal right now. I know there's at least one big fish.
Primary 2 are Julian Armella, the 4-star offensive tackle at St. Thomas Aquinas, who Florida State is in on heavy. I put a crystal ball pick in last week for Florida State. I believe there was a swarm of others that followed. He'd be the top prep offensive lineman, and I would say Caden Lyles right now, the center. Florida State really wants a center, is the primary target in the transfer portal. There'll be more. But right now, I think that's all I know for right now.
Yeah, Kesnaw in the chat says Georgia Tech is beating out FSU for transfer offensive lineman. I think he's referring to the Alabama kid who entered the transfer portal the other day, Quick or whatever it is.
I can confirm
FSU
Florida
doesn't want
State
him.
is not interested in any of the Alabama prospects currently in the portal. Not to say that won't change, but the prospects currently in the portal, Florida State is not pursuing.
Not so quick.
I can confirm that.
So,
I mean, if we're going to report on the guys that they're in on. They pass on a lot of guys. We saw that last time. we're probably going to see that this time, but I do believe that they get more focused and do pursue, I don't think they wait till the summer for sure. I think
center is very important. We got to see Thomas Schrader when he comes back healthy. Is he a guy that they use at guard or center? Regardless, they need to take one from the portal. They need a bigger body there, a more capable body. That was a position where they kind of got whooped down the stretch this year at. I think it's also important to definitely add another tackle guard swing type, even if you do add Armella out of the high school ranks. I think it's a 2-spot position at least. FSU offensive line is so tough because you can take great freshmen. You're only going to get so much out of maybe 1 or 2 of those guys out of 6 or so freshmen because it's just how that position is. Bigger body, tougher it is. It's tough to throw those guys into the fire. But they need to restock freshmen. They need to restock sophomores, juniors, seniors. They need to have that depth chart better stocked at all levels. That's been a multi-year issue for them, and it's something they're definitely trying to resolve. And Dylan Gibbons being a 2-year guy was a perfect solution to some of that, and for example. So I think it's very important for them to get very veteran type of center where they kind of have, give Maurice a little time to develop more than maybe Schrader, possibly an incoming freshman guy, maybe Woody at center, and then at tackle guard, if you need to give Darius more time to get stronger or Robert Scott more time, or you want to move one of those guys, give you an option at tackle without having to push an Armella or somebody like that out there immediately into the fire. So I think 2, one being a certainty at center, the other one being more of a swing type.
Any developments that you want to add to that, Zach, before we throw our numbers out there?
No, I think they've got it covered.
Okay.
Hold on. If we're going to talk offensive line, how can we not mention that Florida State head coach Mike Norvell is going to see 5-star offensive tackle Keonta Goodwin today? The Kentucky commitment, we get a visit from 2 FSU coaches. Again, I think he's a really big long shot, but they're going to swing for the fences and see if they can pull in one of these. Again, I think Julian Armella right now, though, is probably their best shot at a prep offensive lineman.
Okay, Josh, I'll let you go with the number. How many, including Bless Harris, would you? Well, don't get big-eyed on me. Would you take
3
in the transfer portal?
3. You got to take 3. Because like Chris said, you got to shore up the interior at center, and then you got to take a Bless Harris. Whether or not he ends up signing, it's a spot in the class that needs to be filled. I think Bless Harris can fill that role, but then you need to go out and find a starting tackle, because nobody on here thinks that Bless Harris is going to step in and really be the answer to start at tackle, either of the tackle positions next year. So I
Bless
think
Harris fixes your depth issue that you had this year, where you got to a point with Brady Scott or Bavion Johnson. You add another body to that count.
Yeah, you don't go full emergency mode when a tackle goes down with Bless Harris. But now you need to go out and find your starter. So 3.
That's including Harris, correct?
Yes.
Josh?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris?
I said 2. 2
plus
you did?
Harris.
Yeah.
So 3?
Yeah, but we already were counting Harris, I thought.
Yeah, but we're saying the collective number of transfers that we think they're going to take is roughly 8, and so we're operating that with them. Math. Oh, God, I thought we had 10. Oh, shoot. This is going to be difficult. Zach, how many do you have offensive line?
I think you got to go Bless Harris, Caden Lyles are another center type, and then like a tackle. So 3.
Okay. As we get to the defensive side of the ball, real quick, I want to say on the bench is red hot right now. Knowles 24/7 is red hot right now. We're scorching. If you want someone who can do ad reads for you and do it better than me, we'll have Chris or Josh or Zach. Yeah, we'll pimp the hell out of your business. So we want to get this show sponsored, like permanently, long-term kind of deal, and we can sell product, right, Josh?
We can move it.
We can move it. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to edge rushers. So FSU obviously gets a ton of production this year from Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas. They have 9 guys right now that we can account for after those 2 move on, and we'll certainly Jermaine Johnson will be drafted. I imagine Keir Thomas is going to have a decent shot at it too. So we have 9. I'm including Leonard Warner in that. As Chris mentioned earlier, we're not entirely sure what the waiver status is going to be for him. You have Marcus Cushney, who is a graduate transfer who has 1 more year of eligibility remaining. Didn't really give you the impact that you hoped he would. Derek McClendon flashed at times. I think he had 3.5 sacks to 4 at this season. Question on Fuller, ups and downs. TJ Davis, probably more of a defensive tackle at this point. Patrick Payton, George Wilson, Byron Turner, and Shampre Jackson as the freshmen from last year really don't contribute a ton for a variety of reasons. So that's what you have at edge rusher coming back at defensive end right now in this recruiting class. You have who's my boy from Neptune Beach, Aaron Hester, and I think that's it for edge defenders at the moment. So, Chris, what are we looking at defensive end on the board right now? And I'll start talking about, I guess, grad transfers as well as far as numbers. Go ahead and throw your prediction when you're done talking about the defensive end board.
Well, you have Marvin Jones Jr., of course, FSU legacy, major battle with Alabama. Oklahoma was in there before everything blew up there. I think they're now done with his recruitment.
Is USC part of the recruitment?
I don't think so. I think I think Lincoln Riley burned that bridge and it's done. Nigel Kelly's not a kid. FSU will be in home with him later this week. Loves the recruiting process, doesn't give it away. FSU, Oregon, Miami, definitely in it. I think Georgia has a shot if they can get him on campus. We'll see if that happens again. Am I forgetting anybody with him, Zach?
Georgia, Oregon, Miami, Florida State. I don't think so.
LSU?
I guess LSU's considered in there, but LSU's kind of a to be determined type of situation because of the fact that they haven't hired a coach. So those are two edge guys that I definitely think are worth knowing. On the interior, it's probably worth also mentioning at edge Dante Anderson. It's somebody I expect them to visit. They might bring him in for an official. I think to some degree he's a little bit more on the back burner compared to the other two we just mentioned. On the interior, they obviously have a commitment from Daniel Lyons, who should help them there. Bishop Thomas, who they're going to see today, is another young man that will probably help them on the interior. He's a bit more of a strong side defensive end type, body type, but FSU usually bulks those up and moves them in, kind of like Josh Farmer last year. So you got those committed. Target-wise at D-tackle, there's not anybody off the top of my head, correct? So I think that's a position.
Wait, at defensive tackle?
Yeah, target-wise.
Well, okay, Mr. Skip Ahead, that's going to be a different position.
I mean, personal opinion, I think Nigel Kelly might end up a D-tackle long-term in his college career. But that's a whole nother discussion for another day.
Are you counting like guys who are committed to Florida State as that, or just because Bishop
I'm saying
Thomas
additional targets outside of Lyons and Thomas that they might take at defensive tackle.
Tyree West?
Yes, thank you, Zach. I did forget Tyree West. So he's certainly one. I actually think FSU definitely leads. So I think crystal ball-wise, we're all in on that one.
Yeah, but didn't it go down a point for Josh?
Just 1 point for Josh, yeah. But
Josh is leaving.
He'll be right back. So that's what they have on the board. Target-wise, I think it's going to come down to what does Fabian Lovett decide to do. Obviously, we know they're losing Jermaine and Keir, so you got to fix the edge situation. If you get one or both of those high school guys we mentioned out of gate, Kelly and Jones Jr., that really changes the dynamic. If you miss, you probably have to go portal because you're going to need it. I do think defensive end is a spot where they can plug one of those freshmen in and get good returns, especially if it's Marvin Jones Jr. I think he's a dude that can play day one and contribute at a good level. Brian Burns, but with much more bulk, much more ready, and definitely ready to play. He's a competitive kid. So it's tough to kind of look at the transfer number with them at defensive line right now. I think there's so much to be determined. Does Cooper go? Does Lovett go? If you lose both of those, you probably have to take a tackle body because Malcolm Ray's the next man up. Josh Farmer didn't get a ton of burn this year. I don't really know who the next guy would be for them right now at that position. You probably need somebody at least as a stopgap Band-Aid on the interior. Dennis Briggs obviously should be back and healthy, and he's a guy that I love and I think was set to have a pretty big year before he hurt his foot, ankle, whatever it was, lower extremity. So I think in the end, if I had to put a number on it today, it's like a 1.5 for me because defensive end is a half because if they miss on one or both, that's going to go up. Defensive tackle, I think they're probably going to end up needing one because I kind of have a feeling that we're going to lose Lovett and Cooper. I think there's a fair chance of that happening.
And currently, that's okay. Currently at interior defensive line, we can include it all in one. You have 7 guys that we account for right now: Robert Cooper, Dennis Briggs, as Chris mentioned, Jarrett Jackson, who impressed later in the year, Fabian Lovett, who had a great beginning to middle of the season, dealt with an injury, kind of fell off a little bit. Which is an interesting variable. True Thompson really kind of fell out of the rotation. Malcolm Ray played well. And then Joshua Farmer, a true freshman who I think they're pretty high on, but still developing physically and wasn't quite able to contribute this year, outside of a couple snaps here and there. So that's what you have. I think Robert Cooper probably goes pro at this point. Like, he's been at FSU for 4 years. He has 1 more year of eligibility left. I just don't know what else he's going to get out of coming back another year. I think he's kind of maxed out of what he can be. Fabian Lovett's interesting because I could see him still continuing to grow. He didn't have a great back half of the season, but someone we've talked about before could probably use getting drafted in his life for personal reasons, financially, and someone who projects like the athleticism and the size as a NFL caliber defensive tackle. So it'll be interesting. With that being said, so Chris is at, what do we say, 1.5 for you for the defensive line? I mean, okay, we'll make it difficult. Zachary, for you at defensive line, anything that you want to add in terms of recruiting nuggets? And then if you want to throw out a number for both edge and interior defensive line, what you have there?
Not really much to add with the targets, but I think for the interior, I'd probably go 0. Like, I like what they've got coming in, especially if they land Tyree West. I don't know if those guys are instant impact, but you hope Malcolm Ray develops a little bit more over the offseason. Some of those other guys in that room do. I think the end position is way more important, just from a production standpoint. That's where basically all their production came from. How much can you count on Derek McClendon, Quayshawn Fuller, Pat Payton, George Wilson getting that production or anywhere close to that next season? I think they probably, like a guy like Pat Payton, probably needs another year before he becomes an impact guy, if he's going to reach that level. But I think they definitely need to go and try to recapture, what they did in the portal last year with the addition of Jermaine and Kier.
So what was your number for edge defender?
2.
2 and 0 for interior defensive line? All right. Josh, how about you? Defensive line, if you want to split it into edge and interior defensive line, we can do that.
I would take 2 edge rushers and an interior guy. But it depends, how good they are. I maybe move some of those numbers around.
Do you want to cheat and do 1.5 like Chris? Or
No,
2.5? All right. So I was about to say 2 guys edge, but I may be out of numbers already.
I have you down for, including Bless Harris, 7 on offense. 6 if you're not including Bless.
So I can only take 1 edge defender, so I'm done. I'm at 8, so I'm done. Chris, what are you at? Are you close to it at this point?
Well, I took 5 plus 1 on offense, including Bless Harris, so 6, and edge would put me at 7.5, 8.
Okay, so you're at 7.5. Zach's at 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. So Zach's done. And then Josh, you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you've gone over, which is not surprising that Josh has broken the rules already.
No, that's okay. I'm going to take a couple more too because the numbers always work out.
All right, so as we're getting to finish up the defense here, we're running into some problems with numbers, which I think is going to be telling to holes that FSU has and needs. And yes, Mark, right now we're projecting 8, maybe give or take some. Could end up being more, might be a little bit less. We'll see. But yeah, so let's go to linebacker now. And since Chris, you're the only one I think that can still add half of a player, I'll let you start with linebacker, what's currently committed. No, I'll say what's coming back real quick. I'll fill in the people. So you have Emmett Rice potentially coming back, Amari Gaynor potentially coming back. We'll see if he goes pro or not. Emmett Rice is someone who may get a waiver. Jaleel McRae was pretty much scout team all year. Kalen DeLoach, a definite bright spot. Steven Dix Jr., who takes a step back this year, but still young. We'll see what happens. Jayon McCluster, scout team guy. DJ Lundy. I think you got to figure out whether he's a defensive end and needs to add 10 more pounds and be like the Fox to replace Keir Thomas, or whether he loses 10 pounds and plays linebacker, but some growth in Jordan Eubanks. So 8 guys accounted for currently. And then who's committed right now? Omar Graham. Am I missing anyone else?
Nope.
Linebackers recruiting's a sore spot based on Chris's abrupt answer to that. So let's talk about linebacker recruiting. What's on the board? And I'll give you a fair shake to actually.
It's essential to get Wesley Bassane.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beginning and the end of the conversation. If you get Wesley Bassane, I don't think linebacker is a spot where you go portal unless somebody perfect for what you're trying to do at that spot, which I'm not entirely sure what FSU is trying to do at that spot because I don't think they have talent to put it on display. So it's kind of tough to see. I just don't think that's a spot where you use it. I think it's about getting the right high school guys that fit what you want to be. I think Wesley Bassint is a huge piece of the puzzle for this recruiting class for FSU. There's other linebackers on the board too, and I'll let Zach and Josh explain that because they do a better job with that than I do. But Wesley Bassint's the dude for me.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach, because you're shaking your head adamantly agreeing that Bassint's a huge piece of this puzzle here.
Yeah, I mean, he's a must-get for Chris Marv and the staff. I think the other guy to note, I know FSU fans don't want to hear this, but FSU's still involved with Jaron Willis, the Georgia Tech
safety.
I don't know what you want to call him, the Georgia Tech athlete commit. They've had some coaching change over there, if I believe. Maybe someone like his position coach is, I don't know, something. I read something, but I think that'll switch up. Yeah, everyone's angry, but I think they're gonna go see him in home this week. We'll see what happens. I'm of the opinion that, like what Chris said, like you don't just take a linebacker to take a linebacker out of the transfer portal, but if you find a guy that fits what they're trying to do, whatever that is, you've got to go and get one. I think they need, like, Kalen DeLoach is a good leader in that room, but there's not really a guy that's a veteran. Obviously, if Emmett Rice is back, then you kind of have that guy, but there's not really a veteran in that room that's kind of the leader. And that's such an important position to have a leader because they kind of serve as the leader for your defense. And that's not to say that Kalen DeLoach hasn't done a great job at that this season or this past season, but I think adding a veteran guy that can produce for you would be pretty valuable for this defense next year.
Yeah, Georgia Tech is making at least 3 coaching changes. Nathan Burton is one of those. He is their co-defensive coordinator. Also, cornerbacks coach and special teams coordinator Jeff Popovich is out. Offensive coordinator also got canned. So, yeah, there are changes over there for Tech.
Chris, while your mic is on, who is the linebacker who was committed to Oklahoma that may be on the market for FSU now?
Kobe. Is it McKenzie? Yeah. Kobe McKenzie. He's a guy that FSU was really involved with early on. He's from Lubbock, Texas. I believe Chris Thompson has some ties there. Chris Murph had a relationship with the young man. I've reached out today to see if FSU has hit him up since he decided to decommit from the Sooners. Waiting to hear back. Have not heard back from him yet.
Okay. Zach, I'm sorry. What was your portal allocation there for linebacker? Yes or no?
Am I allowed to go over 8?
I mean, at this point, Josh cheated.
Why is Josh knowing me when he's at 9 right now?
Because Josh can do what he wants. The numbers always work out. That's his thing. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Them's the rules.
I mean, I think 1 at linebacker is what I would go.
Okay. And Chris, to clarify, you went with 0, correct? A
correct.
Linebacker? Okay. Joshua?
I'd go with 0 because I like pain.
I am really, really optimistic about the growth that Kalen DeLoach made. And if you can get Emmett Rice back and DJ Lundy, that's 3. Gainer, if he returns, that's a solid 4. And then maybe someone else takes a step. I don't know.
So you're a no.
I don't have any more numbers. I'm going to play by the rules. So I'm going. Right. Oh God, who said yes? I put the one in the wrong category. Zach
took one.
Okay. I was going to combine safety and corner. I was going to do this individually, but we're trying to wrap things up here and hurry along with the podcast. So, safety, cornerback right now. Coming back at. Okay. Well, then I'll go individually if that's what you would like.
I'm saying no, we're not trying to hurry it along.
I am. This is me trying to go fast.
Trying.
This is me trying hard. The fact that this is going to be under 2 hours is miraculous. So at safety, Jamie Robinson.
I got 1 hour and 10 minutes. Calm down over there, okay?
Who, me?
Yes, you. Take a breath. Collect yourself.
Take a sip of bourbon.
This is like a snap just went over your head and turned 2nd and 5 and a 3rd and 16, and you're just done. Like, we're already punting, and it's only 3rd down. Calm down.
Should I fair catch the punt like Pokey Wilson did into the sun, or too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon.
Oh, my God. If you take a wide receiver, you have to get someone who has experience returning punts and isn't afraid to catch the ball. Anyways, safety. Right now, we have 8 returning. Jamie Robinson is part of that. For how long? I'm not sure. Chris, right? We'll see.
The note felt open-ended, I guess is the best way of describing yesterday.
No, him and Brady Scott both wrote a similar note, so we'll see what happens. Jarquez McClellan earned a scholarship spot if he wasn't on scholarship. He returns for one more year, we believe. Renardo Green moved to cornerback at the end of the year. I'm not sure what the future is for Renardo. Been dealing with injuries, but he's there. Brendan Gant, we'll see. Travis Jay is at cornerback, and I don't know what. Jadarius Green McKnight at linebacker. I didn't update this part of the spreadsheet clearly. Sidney Williams dealt with injuries at the end of the year, and Shaheem Brown. So that's at safety. We have 8 there roughly, but you can move guys around and whatnot. At cornerback, we have Akeem Dent. No, he was a safety. Damn it, Brendan. Really butchering this at the very end. Sticking the landing. Jerry and Jones, Jarvis Brownlee, Demore Tate, Kevin Knowles, Duke Cooper, and Hunter Washington. So combined, we have 15 guys that are returning. Now, some of the guys who were slated to be part of this class as of right now, there's 2 defensive backs committed. Maybe you've heard of them. I don't know. Travis Hunter is one. Sam McCall is the other. That's the number 1 recruit nationally and the number 25 recruit nationally. Travis, respectively. Hunter at cornerback. Maybe a little wide receiver too. Sam McCall at safety. So that's the defensive back room currently projected. Zachary, you've done a really nice job updating a couple of recruitments. There's some JUCO guys in the mix. There's some prep prospects that are still in the mix right now. So I guess what is on the board currently for FSU in terms of both JUCO and prep prospects?
Yeah, well, I think if you're talking about prep guys, Earl Little Jr., Kendrick Law, probably missing one more, Kamari Wilson, I went to go see today. Those are the 3 guys that I would outline at the prep level. You're battling the top schools for all those guys who, it's like we mentioned, like they're going for top dogs at positions that, like the defensive back position. Travis Hunter and Sam McCall is an already elite class. They're just trying to find that 1 or 2 spots to finish it out. But other than prep guys, I mentioned today, Marquise Gilbert got a visit from defensive coordinator Adam Fuller. He's a JUCO cornerback or safety prospect out of Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. And then out of the transfer portal, there's been a few names. I think most notably Marcus Banks, the former Alabama defensive back, who has FSU ties. Bobby Meeks is his father, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's a guy that we expect in for an official next weekend, not this coming weekend, the weekend following that. He's a guy that I could see them pursuing and trying to sign. Other than that, there might be some more names that show up over the next week or 2 with transfer guys or high school options with, all these coaching changes. There might be some decommitments or whatever. So we'll monitor it, but those are the names to watch.
One that you guys want to add or anything to the defensive back group before we talk about the potential portal there?
No, I mean, I think Hunter and McCall are both guys that you can expect to contribute day 1, especially Hunter. I think Hunter's a guy that can start day 1. I think for FSU, it's important to, 1, have a better starting group overall, a better second corner, first corner type of situation. And then depth is important. Depth has been an issue at that position the last 2 years, mainly because of injuries. Well, last year, injuries and departures. The big question mark with the DB group is we presume it's going to thin out to some degree. How it thins out, not real sure.
Joshua?
I think that, like Chris said, Travis Hunter and Sam McCall are going to come in and be able to make an impact year 1. So you're getting a little bit of relief. You're getting, the cavalry's on its way. I don't know right now about the transfer portal, but I do like some of the JUCO options, that Zach talked about that's on the board. So if you're going to count that as a transfer, are you counting JUCO as transfer for me?
No.
Nope.
Okay, then no. Give me 0 right now based on what I know.
Yeah, I think it has to be a special guy. I think Marcus Banks is viewed as a high-level cover corner, a one-on-one type winner. I think that's why they value him. I think it's more about his individual talent than looking at the portal to try to get one. So I think it's a position where they could very easily use 0 unless it's a guy of that sort.
And if A lot of it's going to depend on like what Jamie Robinson decides to do ultimately, because I think if you have him coming back next year, you feel pretty good about your safety group with between him, Jarquez McClellan. Don't forget Sidney Williams was a starter before he was injured, so that's 3 solid ones right there, which is minimum of what you need. And then obviously if you add McCall to that as expected, and if Shaheem Brown takes another step, if you can get then anything out of Renardo Green, Brendan Gant, or Travis Jay, then that's at least something there. At cornerback, like I feel pretty good about guys. Oh, and Akeem Dent too, also at safety. Yeah, played well at the end of the year. But cornerback, I feel solid with Jarvis Brownlee, Kevin Knowles, and Duke Cooper. Then you add Travis Hunter to that mix too. Like that plays, that works. So yeah, I don't think you have to go in the portal there. So I'm at 0. We're all at 0 for defensive back.
Yeah, I think it's kind of I view it as a +1 spot where if it's the right one, then you take it. But is it a necessity? I don't know about that. So I'm more 0 than 1.
And Josh was at 0. Zach, you were at 0?
Yeah, I think if it's a Marcus Banks, maybe, but
Okay.
I'd probably lean towards 0 just because I think you've got to use those transfer like spots elsewhere where you need more help. Whereas at this, I mean, I think it's the best high school recruited position that they have with Travis Hunter and Sam McCall coming in. Like Travis Hunter can come in and just be a day one starter as a cover corner, and then McCall, rotating into that safety mix. I don't really think you need one, in my opinion, especially if Jamie Robinson comes back.
And don't forget, you hit on 2 of your cornerbacks for sure this past cycle, Kevin Knowles and Duke Cooper. And they like Hunter Washington as well, just someone who needs a little bit more time, but I don't think he's someone who's out of the mix next year. So yeah, we're all at 0 there. Zach potentially using 1 if the right guy shows up. So that right now, going into special teams, Bob Ferrante Memoriam, I'm at 8 because I follow the rules. Chris is at 7.5 because he follows the rules and is conservative, so he has half a player running around with no torso maybe. And then Josh and Zach both cheated and are at 9. So, Chris, I'm going to throw this to you at special teams. You bring back Parker Grothaus, Ryan Fitzgerald, and Alex Mastermano, all on scholarship, if I recall correctly. Wait, is Fitzgerald on scholarship? Yes, he is. So you have all those guys coming back. Do you burn a scholarship on a kicker in the transfer portal?
No. Maybe you try to add a kicker, but it's not a position where you need to use another scholarship.
Okay. Since Zach and Josh are playing with Monopoly money here, do you guys want to add a specialist at all to your 9 currently?
No, just give me a guy that can catch a punt. That's all I want.
I think you had 3 kickers.
Oh, so.
Throw numbers at it. You know what? I'm going to cheat and go over because everyone else is, and I'm going to add a kicker. I think you have to get a kicker. How many games were decided by poor special teams? Like specifically just kicking the ball, not returning or anything else, coverage, just kicking the ball.
It factored into nearly all of them. I don't know if it decided them, but it factored in heavily.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame.
If you're adding a kicker, you need to show one of the other ones the door.
Yeah, I'm okay with that happening.
Just from a scholarship allocation standpoint, you can't have 3 kickers on scholarship in the program at the same time. Unless they're like all Grammaticas or Janikowskis.
But they have 10 tight ends, Chris. You can do whatever the hell you want.
That's Josh's department. Take it up with him.
If you can get a kicker who's like a career 80%, 85% field goal kicker, like I think that's worthwhile if you could find that. All right. We done? Is that everything? We're at 1 hour and 23 minutes. It's not bad. Yeah, I think my guys are all checked out. Wow. Anything we want to add before we exit on the bench here?
I was humored by Josh texting at 10 p.m. last night.
And you texting Chris at 6 a.m. this morning. It was bizarre world.
I was on the phone till almost 11:30 last night.
Attaboy.
Had a source that I hadn't talked to all season. I was just about to go to bed, typical bedtime, like 9:45. It was like an hour and a half phone call.
Wow.
So
what a humble brag.
Last night.
What a humble brag. Okay, so the final numbers here as we wrap this up for the transfer portal allocation, scholarship allocation. Josh, 9. Zach, 9. Myself, 9 if you could find a good kicker. And Chris at 7.5. Chris, what would you use your 0.5 at? You got it. You want to use that on anyone?
I mean, I think you probably end up using the 0.5 on the D line, and if you're going to add one more, it's probably a DB. But we covered those scenarios.
Half of the kicker, just the legs.
Just the legs. That's all you need. You don't want them overthinking things. You don't need a head. You don't need a brain. No, just kick. Okay, but point being, as we wrap this up, FSU is going to be active in the transfer portal. That's already started. We anticipate that to continue to progress throughout the offseason. We will keep you posted of that on Noles 24/7. And yeah, FSU's got a lot of guys they still need to address and not a whole lot of room to do it. So they're going to have to be judicious with it. Josh, one more time before we wrap up, and I'll let you exit the podcast or end it because you're better at finishing than I am. I'm already rambling and getting nervous and rubbing my hands together like a praying mantis. Tell the people where they can find, not just On the Bench, but anything on Noles 24/7. Like, what should they be doing? Subscriptions?
Well, you just told them where they can find it. But yeah, we are absolutely killing it right now on Noles 24/7. This is our time to shine. Me and Zach, we are out here reporting everything that's going on in FSU recruiting. We came out of the gates smoking hot on Sunday and Monday. Also, a recruiting scoop dropped today on some of the results that we've heard back from some of these in-home visits. So if you're looking to join Noles 24/7, now is the time. We have a 75% off promo. It doesn't really get better than this. You guys always ask me when we're doing these deals. Now is the time. There's a couple hours left. It'll end at midnight on Monday. Go out there and get it. For Brendan Sonnone, for Chris Nee, for Zach Blostein, I am Josh Newberg. Thank you for listening to On the Bench.